You are lying to yourself. Every single morning, when the alarm goes off and you negotiate for just 5 more minutes of sleep, you are telling yourself a lie. Every time you write down a list of goals, feel a brief rush of motivation, and then abandon them 3 days later, you are participating in a delusion. You have been sold a comforting, paralyzing fiction since the day you were born. You have been taught that success, that mastering your life, is simply a matter of finding your passion. You have been told that if you just believe in yourself, if you just find the right self-help book, the right app, or the right morning routine, everything will fall into place. You have been trained to view discipline as a tool for self-care, a gentle nudge to make you feel better about yourself. But the truth is far more violent and deeply unsettling. The truth is that you are in the middle of a brutal, unseen war, and right now, you are losing. Look at your life with cold, surgical honesty. How many promises have you made to yourself that you have broken? How many times have you sworn that today would be the day you finally change, only to watch yourself surrender to the exact same impulses, the exact same cheap distractions, the exact same paralyzing laziness the moment resistance appears? This is not a lack of motivation. This is a lack of rulership. You are living like a conquered city, your mind invaded by foreign impulses, your potential pillaged by your own weakness. You are not the master of your fate. You are a hostage to your feelings. If you want to understand how to break these chains, you must look away from the modern world, which glorifies comfort and fragility. You must look to a man whose name has become synonymous with ruthless power, calculated strategy, and the unforgiving reality of human nature. You must look to Niccolò Machiavelli. History has painted Machiavelli as a villain, a manipulator who taught tyrants how to deceive and conquer. But this is the interpretation of the weak. Those who truly understand Machiavelli know that his philosophy was not merely about ruling a nation. It was about ruling the self. Machiavelli understood that the world is a chaotic, dangerous arena where the unprepared are swallowed whole. He knew that the universe does not care about your good intentions, your potential, or your feelings. It only respects power. And the absolute foundation of all power, before you can conquer a market, a discipline, or an enemy, is the absolute, tyrannical conquest of your own mind. Discipline is not a matter of willpower. Willpower is an emotion, and emotions are unreliable mercenaries. Discipline is the architecture of an empire. It is the internal wall you build to keep the chaos out. In a world that begs you to be weak, soft, and easily manipulated, forging Machiavellian discipline is the ultimate act of rebellion. Let us dissect the anatomy of your failures. When you attempt to change your life, you usually rely on inspiration. You watch a video, read a quote, or experience a moment of intense pain regarding your current situation, and a fire ignites within you. You feel invincible. You declare that from this moment forward, you will be relentless. But what happens when that fire burns out? What happens on day 4, when it is raining, when your body aches, when your mind whispers that one day off won't hurt? You collapse. You surrender. Machiavelli warned against this exact vulnerability. In his writings, he frequently compared the structure of a state to the structure of a military force. He harbored a deep, profound hatred for mercenary armies. Mercenaries are soldiers who fight only for coin. When the sun is shining and the enemy is weak, they are fierce. But the moment the battle turns bloody, the moment real sacrifice is required, mercenaries desert. They have no loyalty, no foundation, no skin in the game. Your motivation is a mercenary army. No skin. When you rely on how you feel to dictate what you do, you are hiring mercenaries to protect your future. When the conditions are perfect, your motivation fights for you. But the moment you face exhaustion, the moment you face boredom, fear, or doubt, your motivation abandons you on the battlefield. You are left defenseless. To govern yourself like a Machiavellian prince, you must build a citizen militia. A citizen militia fights because it is fighting for its homeland. It fights out of duty, out of structure, out of absolute necessity. In the realm of your mind, this militia is your deeply ingrained, non-negotiable routine. It is a system of behaviors that operates entirely independently of your emotional state. The true prince does not ask himself if he feels like governing today. He governs because if he does not, his kingdom falls. You must stop asking yourself if you feel like doing the work. You must treat your daily disciplines as matters of supreme state security. Imagine a ruler who makes decisions based on momentary panic or sudden bursts of joy. Such a ruler would be easily manipulated by his enemies and despised by his subjects. His kingdom would be erratic, unstable, and ripe for invasion. Yet, This is exactly how you treat your own life. You allow a sudden craving for dopamine to dictate the next hour of your day. You allow a momentary feeling of anxiety to convince you to abandon a project you have worked on for months. You are a chaotic king, and your mind is in a constant state of civil war. To establish order, you must declare martial law on your own impulses. You must recognize that there is a weak, pathetic version of you that desperately wants to remain comfortable. This version of you is the enemy of your destiny. It is a traitor residing within your own walls. You cannot reason with this traitor. You cannot negotiate with it. You must subjugate it with this traitor. This requires the cultivation of what Machiavelli called virtù. Do not confuse this with the modern moralistic definition of virtue. Machiavellian virtù has nothing to do with being a good, polite, or harmless person. Virtù is a dark, potent, and formidable energy. It is the drive, the talent, the sheer force of will, and the strategic ruthlessness required to impose your vision onto the fabric of reality. It is the ability to withstand immense pressure without cracking. It is the capacity to look at a chaotic, terrifying situation and bend it to your advantage. Virtù is the ultimate psychological armor. But it does not exist in a vacuum. Machiavelli paired virtù against another immense force, a force he called Fortuna, or fortune. Fortuna is the unpredictable, violent nature of the universe. It is luck, both good and bad. It is the economic crash that wipes out your business. It is the sudden illness, the betrayal of a friend, the unexpected opportunity, the tragic accident. Fortune is the ultimate wild card. Machiavelli compared fortune to a raging, destructive river. When the river floods, it destroys everything in its path. It tears down trees, obliterates buildings, and washes away the earth. When the flood comes, everyone flees. No one can stand against the raging water. The weak man looks at the flood and cries. He blames the universe. He blames God. He plays the victim. He says, "It is not my fault that my house was destroyed. The river was too strong." And he is right. It is not his fault the river flooded, but it is his fault he was unprepared. Machiavelli states that while fortune is wildly destructive, she only shows her true power where no virtù has been organized to resist her. The wise prince, the man of true discipline, knows that the flood is coming. He does not know when, and he does not know how high the waters will rise, but he knows the nature of the river, and he does not know how. Therefore, during times of peace, when the sun is shining and the water is calm, he does not rest. He does not celebrate. He works. He builds dikes. He constructs dams. He digs canals. He prepares his defenses with paranoid obsession, so that when the river inevitably swells and the floodwaters rush in, the water is channeled, controlled, and neutralized. The disaster that ruins the weak man barely touches the man of virtù. This is the exact reason why your modern concept of discipline is failing you. You're trying to build your discipline while you are drowning. You wait until your life is falling apart, until you are overweight, broke, and depressed, and then you suddenly try to erect a fortress in a single day. It is impossible. Or conversely, when things are going well, you become soft. You stop training, you stop reading, you let your diet slip, you lower your standards. You think you have won the war because a single battle went your way. You stop building the dam. Discipline is not a reactive measure. It is a proactive, relentless, lifelong campaign. You must train your mind to be incredibly hard when life is incredibly easy. You must artificially manufacture adversity when the environment provides none. This is the secret of the elite. When there is no enemy to fight, they fight themselves. They push their bodies to the point of breaking in the gym. They deny themselves cheap pleasures. They read dense, difficult texts to sharpen their minds. They wake up in the freezing dark when they have no obligation to do so. Why? Because they are building the dikes. They are fortifying the walls. They are anticipating the wrath of fortune. If you do not do this, you are effectively leaving the gates of your castle wide open. And when you leave the gates open, you invite the enemy in. In the modern era, the enemy does not arrive on horseback with swords and torches. In the modern era, the modern enemy is far more insidious, far more lethal, because it arrives disguised as entertainment. Your mind is constantly being besieged by algorithms designed by the smartest engineers on the planet. Their entire goal is to extract your attention, harvest your dopamine, and keep you in a state of perpetual, passive consumption. Every time you scroll endlessly through a feed, every time you binge-watch meaningless content, every time you reach for your phone the second you feel a hint of boredom, you are being conquered. You are handing over the keys to your kingdom to a foreign power. You are allowing yourself to be politically, intellectually, and spiritually enslaved. A Machiavellian prince would rather die than allow a foreign entity to dictate the thoughts within his own borders. Yet, you pay for the privilege of being distracted. To reclaim your throne, you must become intimately aware of your own psychological terrain. A general cannot defend a territory he does not understand. You must observe yourself with cold, detached calculation. You must map out your own weaknesses. What are your triggers? At what time of day does your willpower fade? Which emotions cause you to seek comfort? Is it anxiety? Is it loneliness? Is it the fear of failure? You must treat these weaknesses not as personality quirks to be accepted, but as breaches in your security that must be eradicated. The modern psychological landscape tells you to embrace your flaws, to practice extreme self-forgiveness, to lower the bar so you never have to feel the sting of inadequacy. This is the philosophy of the defeated. If a wall in your fortress is crumbling, you do not forgive the wall. You do not accept the wall for what it is. You tear it down and rebuild it with stronger stone. If you have a habit of procrastination, you do not coddle it. You do not tell yourself that you just need more rest. You do not coddle it. You recognize it as a lethal cancer that is eating away at your future, and you cut it out with a scalpel. This level of self-mastery requires the implementation of strict, unbreakable internal laws. A prince rules through law and consequence. If a state has laws but no punishment for breaking them, those laws are merely suggestions. The citizens will laugh at them, and chaos will reign. Look at the rules you set for yourself. You say you will wake up at 5 a.m. You say you will go to the gym. You say you will work on your business for 3 hours. These are your laws. But what happens when you break them? What happens when you hit snooze? What happens when you skip the gym to watch television? Nothing. Absolutely nothing happens. There is no consequence. There is no pain. There is no penalty. And because there is no penalty, your brain quickly realizes that your words are entirely empty. You lose respect for yourself. Your subconscious mind learns that your commands do not need to be obeyed because the king is weak and toothless. If a ruler issues an edict and the peasants ignore it without facing the gallows, the ruler has lost his crown. If you want to build ironclad discipline, you must reintroduce consequence into your life. You must punish your own failures. If you fail to execute a routine, there must be a price to pay, and that price must hurt. It must be a tangible, undeniable loss. Give a trusted friend a large sum of money and instruct them to donate it to a cause you absolutely despise if you fail to complete your daily tasks. Deny yourself a meal. Force yourself into a freezing shower. Make the pain of breaking your own law far greater than the temporary comfort of being lazy. You must train your brain to fear indiscipline more than it fears hard work. This is the brutal mechanics of behavioral change. You cannot love yourself into becoming a weapon. You must forge yourself in the fires of consequence and accountability. You must become a dictator to your lower self so that your higher self can experience true liberty. Because what is true freedom? The masses believe freedom is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, to eat the junk food, to sleep until noon, to act on every fleeting emotional impulse. But that is not freedom. That is the most pathetic form of slavery. You are a biological puppet, dancing on the strings of your own neurochemistry. You are a slave to sugar, a slave to screens, a slave to comfort, a slave to laziness. True freedom is the ability to command yourself to do something difficult, something painful, something entirely unappealing in the present moment, and having the absolute certainty that you will execute it flawlessly. True freedom is looking at a massive, intimidating obstacle and knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that you have the internal infrastructure to dismantle it piece by piece. True freedom is the possession of virtù. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. While he applied this to the ruling of subjects, apply it now to the ruling of your own mind. It is better that your body and your impulses fear your iron will than for you to constantly try to love yourself into doing the right thing. Love is fickle. Fear is primal. When your lower self fears the consequences of the higher self's wrath, obedience becomes automatic. To cultivate this, you must strip away the noise. You must simplify your battlefield. One of the greatest destroyers of discipline is decision fatigue. Every time you have to make a choice, what to wear, what to eat, when to train, what to work on, you are burning precious mental energy. By the time you need to make a decision that actually matters, your strategic reserves are depleted, and your inner mercenary deserts you. The Machiavellian mind creates rigid systems to eliminate trivial decisions. You must mechanize your days. Wake up at the exact same time. You must eat the exact same meals. Wear the same type of clothes. Perform your deepest, most difficult work at the exact same hour, in the exact same location. You remove the burden of choice so that you can concentrate all the violent force of your willpower onto the execution of your grand strategy. When the alarm rings, there is no debate. There is no parliament in your head taking a vote on whether or not you should get up. The king has already decreed the law the night before. The body simply obeys. This transition will not be easy. Your mind, accustomed to a lifetime of leniency and comfort, will violently rebel. It will throw tantrums. It will manifest physical symptoms of exhaustion. It will flood you with brilliant, highly rational-sounding excuses as to why you need to stop. You are overtraining. You are going to burn out. You need to focus on your mental health. Life is about balance. These are the whispers of a deposed tyrant trying to claw its way back to the throne. You must recognize these thoughts as enemy propaganda. Do not argue with them. Do not engage with them. You simply observe them, categorize them as weakness, and step forward into the resistance. In the discourses, Machiavelli points out that men rarely know how to be entirely good or entirely bad. They live in a lukewarm, tepid middle ground, committing half measures that lead to their ultimate ruin. This is the tragedy of the modern man. You do not have the courage to completely abandon yourself to degeneracy, but you also lack the savage discipline required to achieve absolute greatness. You hover in the middle. You try a little bit. You work out twice a week. You read a few pages of a book. You put in a mediocre effort at your job. This middle ground is a slow, agonizing death. It guarantees that you will experience the pain of effort without ever tasting the glory of victory. Machiavelli demands totality, if you are going to strike, you strike with such overwhelming, devastating force that the enemy cannot possibly recover. If you are going to adopt the path of discipline, you cannot do it halfway. You must burn the ships. You must eradicate the backup plans. You must commit to this new identity with a fanaticism that borders on madness. You must look in the mirror and declare that the soft, compromising, negotiating version of you is dead. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who dictates reality through action. Understand that the world does not want you to do this. The world profits from your indiscipline. Your inability to control your diet makes the pharmaceutical and junk food industries billions. Your inability to control your attention makes the social media conglomerates empires. Your inability to control your finances enriches the banks. Society is a massive machine engineered to feed on your weakness. Every time you give in to an impulse, you are bleeding your own life force into a system that despises you. To become fiercely disciplined is an act of supreme hostility against a corrupt world. It is the ultimate reclamation of your sovereignty. When you command your mind, you stop being prey. You become a predator of your own destiny. But this requires a terrifying level of isolation. As you begin to build this Machiavellian fortress, as you begin to strip away the useless habits, the toxic friends, the mindless entertainment, you will find yourself increasingly alone. The people around you, the ones who are still trapped in the matrix of comfort, will not understand you. They will call you obsessed. They will say you have changed. They will actively try to drag you back down to their level, because your newfound strength acts as a mirror that reflects their own pathetic weakness. You must be immune to their judgments. A prince does not seek the approval of peasants. You must embrace the solitude of leadership. Does not seek the approval. The forge of greatness is incredibly lonely. It is quiet. It is dark. It is the sound of your own breathing in an empty room before the sun comes up. It is the heavy, invisible weight of taking absolute, terrifying responsibility for every single aspect of your existence. There is no savior coming. There is no secret formula. There is no magical wave of motivation that will suddenly make the heavy lifting feel light. There is only the raw, unpolished, agonizing reality of the work. And there is your willingness to face it. You must learn to extract a grim, dark pleasure from the difficulty itself. When you are suffering, when you are exhausted, when every fiber of your being wants to quit, you must smile. You must recognize that this pain is the exact furnace where virtue is forged. This is the exact moment where the weak men break and where the rulers are born. By pushing through, you are not just completing a task. You are leveling up your psychological armor. You are adding another layer of impenetrable stone to your dam. Think of the men who have etched their names into the bedrock of history. They were not the most gifted, nor the most fortunate. Often, they were outgunned, outnumbered, and outmatched. But they possessed a terrifying singular focus. They possessed a discipline so profound, it bent reality to their will. They treated their minds as weapons, constantly sharpening them, constantly testing them against the grindstone of adversity. You have the exact same neurological hardware as the greatest conquerors, philosophers, and builders who have ever lived. The only difference between them and you is that they ruthlessly governed their hardware, while you allow your hardware to govern you. It is time to end the reign of the weak king. It is time to step into the cold, unforgiving light of absolute self-rulership. You must tear down the illusions you have built about who you are. Stop confusing your intentions with your actions. Stop confusing your potential with your reality. You are not what you plan to do. You are not what you hope to achieve. You are exactly and only what you did today. Did you conquer or did you submit? Did you build the dike or did you sleep while the river swelled? Every passing minute is a grain of sand dropping in the hourglass of your mortality. You do not have the luxury of waiting until tomorrow. Fortuna is already gathering her storms. The river is already rising. The world is coming for you, to test you, to break you, to see what you are made of. Will you be a victim of circumstances, swept away by the flood, crying about the unfairness of it all? Or will you stand like a monument of stone, terrifying in your resolve, unbreakable in your discipline, a true Machiavellian prince of your own soul? The war is happening right now, within your own skull. Govern yourself or be governed. Conquer or be conquered. The choice is yours. Make it.